Each year, a minimum of 44,965 Americans die by suicide. When you think about this mass number, a statistic that increases year by year, we must think to ourselves, why? The reasoning behind why one may feel the need to take their own life may seem complex, and it is. However, one thing is not so difficult to understand, yet we fail to implement it: prevention. Suicide prevention is an extremely under talked about topic. We discuss gun laws, gender equality, abortion, and so on. These are all controversial, important, and valid topics that need discussion, and they get it. Why has suicide fallen off the radar when so many are losing their lives to it? In order to lower the suicide rate, we need to establish stronger support systems, lower costs of therapy sessions and mental health medications, and further teach in schools coping mechanisms and alternatives to handle problems. To begin, the first problem stems from what should be a simple fix: support systems. While yes, there is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the system is outdated and too many young adolescents struggling with depression do not find the source to be of any use to them. We are in a generation of texting and talking through messages. A teenager who needs support but has not felt comfortable to talk aloud about his or her problems would struggle to find the lifeline beneficial in their recovery. Instead, a new policy that would serve great purpose for struggling people would be a texting version of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. A ton of the things that the Lifeline offers are valuable. For example, the 24-hour access and anonymous conversations are a great start to the betterment of this outlet. The news outlet called USA Today wrote an article on what the National Suicide Prevention Hotline offers and how and who it is used by. They state the Lifeline has significantly increased its call volume, but there are still people in crisis it doesn't reach. Some people have suicidal thoughts and are afraid to call, worrying that doing so may compromise their privacy or their autonomy. This quote is valuable in furthering the reasons for creating a texting option for the hotline. More and more people in need will reach out and feel comfortable enough to talk with a volunteer. Additionally, another support system that should be implemented is a no-attachment mental institution. There are so many people that do not go for help because of the fear of being checked into a hospital by law. Nancy Schimpfling, a journalist for the website called Very Well Mind, wrote an article on what you can expect if checked into a mental hospital. She writes, "Even though you may have been hospitalized off your free will, the hospital will set rules to ensure your safety. These rules may include initially being in a locked ward that you cannot leave at will, following a schedule for your meals, treatments, activities, and bedtime, certain items that you could potentially use to harm yourself, for example, belts, razors, and shoelaces being locked away, and incarceration with several different staff members, some of whom may periodically check on you or interview you to assess your status. For some, this may not seem so bad and even be seen as helpful, but for someone experiencing emotional distress, this can be intimidating and overwhelming. Being passed around is a collage of photographs taken inside these wards. They look more like prisons, don't they? If we create a safe place where one can go to and not feel trapped, more people will begin to go for help. We need to treat these people less as a risk and more as someone who needs support. To continue, the cost for therapy treatment as well as medications for mental illness are far too costly. The book called Treating Mental Health in Teens defines mental illness medications, stating that psychotropic medications are substances that affect brain chemicals related to mood and behavior. While it is understandable that these medications are not over the counter and therefore expensive, and that a therapist works hard and charges that way, we must find an alternative to help people financially struggling that need to speak with a therapist. Most therapists and psychiatrists can be paid for by using insurance, which for some is helpful. However, for a young teen aiming to get help in private, or even for a financially struggling adult, this could turn them away from getting the help that they need. An alternative would be creating a set fee that can serve as a hold until the person was able to afford it. Somewhere as low as $25 to receive a session or medication could help save a life. Therapists and psychiatrists can then give these patients a 6-month lenient time period where they can obtain the rest of the money and pay them then. In doing this, people will not fear getting help because of the cost. Even certain doctors require specific insurance that some cannot afford. It would benefit many to have this change. A source book called Mental Health Disorders discusses the link between poverty and mental health problems. They state many live their daily lives amid grinding poverty, ongoing disease outbreaks, political instability, and violence, yet there are few, if any, resources available to help them deal with the mental health issues that arise. Additionally, adding, to address this misery, mental health care should be integrated into existing health systems and development programs. These people are stressed enough due to their poverty and would not be willing to go into more depth to try and get the help that they need. A website called Do Something states that nearly one-half of the world's population, more than 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. It would be extremely beneficial to a vast majority of the population if these mechanisms were accessible for a more affordable price. Lastly, the importance of teaching society about suicide awareness and prevention can and will make an immense difference. Becoming aware of how to handle depression and suicidal thoughts, as well as help others experiencing them, should be taught at a young age. The novel called Group Interventions in Schools discusses the benefits of working in groups to help learn about suicide awareness. The book states, a host of group-based interviews have been shown to be effective when readily available to school-based practitioners. It has been proven successful to teach these students in groups. This way, they can learn about one another and begin understanding everyone's thought process is different. Furthermore, while schools aiding adolescents in learning about suicide awareness and prevention, it is beneficial that parents themselves learn how to handle suicide as well. A novel called Parenting Through the Storm encourages parents to try having conversations that focus on purpose, values, self-worth, and her ability to make a difference. By encouraging the young generation to value themselves and others, we are preparing them for a much happier future. To further just how important parent support is, the book called Treating Trauma and Traumatic Grief in Children and Adolescents states that parental support was found to be a significant predictor of children's mental health outcomes. It is important for the parents to understand and teach just as much, if not more, than schools should be doing. To conclude, we can change people's outlooks on life and the option of suicide immensely if we begin to understand it more. Mentally ill people need more support and outlets to begin their recovery. If we continue to focus on the statistic, but not how to prevent it, we will never see a change. The suicide rate is far too high, and awareness and prevention needs to start at a young age. Thank you.